Have you ever asked yourself the question, how much of your life are you experiencing that is actually yours? And how much of it has been inherited? What if many of the beliefs you defend so fiercely, the fears you carry, and the stories you tell yourself, the emotional reactions you have, and even the identity you've spent years trying to improve, were never consciously chosen and were never actually yours? From the moment you were born, you began learning how to survive, belong, and make sense of the world around you through family, culture, education, relationships, religion, success, failure, praise, and rejection. That has all been quietly shaping the lens through which you've been experiencing life. And over time, that lens has become so familiar that you have stopped seeing it as conditioning and started calling it you. But what if something is deeper than this? And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about remembering. We're going to dive deep into understanding intuition about the observer and being able to consciously participate in the unfolding of your human experience. Today, I want to welcome you to episode 15 here at High Frequency Mind Radio, and I'm your host, Lindsay Goodwin, known as the Consciousness Medium. And today we are going to be opening the doorway to the rest of this season. We are going to be exploring one of the most foundational idea of this mission that I'm on. And what I want to be very clear right from the start is that my goal of this episode and the goal of the High Frequency Mind is not to teach you how to become someone new. It's not about fixing yourself because you've never been broken. And it certainly is not about trying to transcend or escape your human experience, because here's the thing. This is a gift. This is quite a gift to be alive. And so we're not trying to escape the human experience, which there's a lot of information out there that over the years, not even just right now, but throughout history, where trying to escape the human experience and transcend above it is somehow what different teachings have been teaching. And I'm not about that. I believe that the human experience is something that is such a gift, and we're here to actually learn how to live who we truly are. If you want to say awaken, or more of remembrance is what I like to call it, in that we are completely remembering who we truly are within this experience versus the conditioning. And that's so much what this episode is about. And this remembering is really that you are an infinite creator within your own consciousness. So much of this is also about remembering that it's about understanding your intuition, which really is your guidance system. And before we get into that, we're going to talk so much about what the observer is through this entire season. I have a new book coming out, which is also called The High Frequency Mind, which is coming out the beginning of next month of August 2026. And that book is going to go over so much more, but we are going to go into so much detail about the observer and what I call the architecture of the infinite self. And this is going to help you to be able to awaken and remember who you truly are. And it really is the integration of neuroscience with spirituality, energy, quantum physics, and how this all really is integrating together. Many different philosophies. And I am absolutely not here to try to say that I have all the answers, because I absolutely don't. It's really about what we find to be what resonates for us is really what the answer is for us individually. So anyone that tries to say that they have all the answers is absolutely full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about, because no one has the answers. That's the beauty of this experience, is that there's so many different timelines and perspectives, and we will get so much more into that. But getting back to the intuition, really this human experience is unfolding, and the way it's unfolding, we have to look at through the lens in which we are experiencing it. So let's go ahead and dive in. And I want you to take a moment to imagine a baby being born, and that baby arrives into this world fully present, experiencing consciousness continuously. But that baby does not arrive with beliefs about success or failure or love or fear or worthiness. They don't arrive knowing what a good job is or what it means to be enough or not enough. They're just arriving in this experience. And I can tell you, I remember back when I was a child, I was born an intuitive medium. It runs in my family. I believe that everyone is psychic. It's just really being able to get yourself to the place where you can get past the ego mind to be able to tap into that GPS that you have. There's no one special here. Everyone's special because we're all special, but there's no one that has more gifts or abilities than you do. That's the other thing that I'll talk a lot about. I don't truly believe that anyone is more special than anyone else as far as being able to tap into spirit or into higher dimensional realities or frequencies or whatever you align with and calling it. I don't believe anyone has more of an ability or gift than anyone else. Just maybe they've developed it more through trust. They've learned how to trust. I was born into this world with not as many layers. I do believe there are people born into this world with not as many layers placed upon them to have to get through to get to the psychic ability, but no one is more special than you. Anyone can learn how to do this. In fact, I think that most psychic readings and fortune telling, I'm not a fan of it. I think most of it's bullshit. I really don't even believe in it. I believe that we're conscious creators and that we create most of our reality based on what we believe. It's about a belief system. And if someone like myself who is an intuitive medium, I can see a snapshot of where your energy is and be able to help guide and direct you. Also, with the ability of science and understanding the subconscious mind and really help you navigate how to get somewhere. But I don't believe that I tell you the future. I don't think that that's real because you create your own future. But someone can help you to be able to understand more, like I said, of where you are and how to navigate that and maybe clear patterns. So there's a lot of different levels that go into this. It's not just one area of telling the future. It's really learning how to trust and go within so that you can be your own power system and that you don't need anyone else. You might have mentors or guides that will come in to help you, whether they're in physical form, like myself, listening even to this podcast, or if we're working together one on one. But you also have spirit guides and energies that might not be in physical form that are also helping to guide you. You could be guided through a book. It doesn't necessarily have to be through a being or a light being or a physical human. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get guidance. But again, I'm not a fan of the psychic readings. I don't believe they're real. I think it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. And there's probably people that will listen to this that might be psychics that don't align with what I'm saying, and that's fine. That's the beauty of this experience, is that we all have um our own perspective. And I also believe that we're moving past this whole looking outside of yourself for the answers. That we are in a time now where we're evolving so much that it's learning how to depend on yourself, not someone else to tell you how your life is going to go. And that could be actually in a lot of industries, in a lot of professions, not just the psychic profession. So going back to what we were talking about, when you're born into this experience, before you're born into any sort of identity, your identity is completely learned. It's learned through generational patterns, through your parents, through people around you, siblings, teachers, mentors that maybe are not mentors like what I'm talking about, but people that you might look up to. And you learn these trained behaviors. And it's really a collection of remembered experiences that turn into beliefs. And I want you to think for a moment about how you define yourself right now. If someone asks you, who are you? Well, oftentimes people don't even know who they are. If you're listening to this podcast, you most likely are on a path of discovering who you are, or you you're very curious about learning more and you're asking big questions, or you might be someone that knows exactly who you are. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey. It just is all about that you continue evolving and growing. That's the most important part. But back to the question, who am I? Well, you might answer with your profession, your relationship status, your achievements, your failures, or even your trauma. But all of those things describe experiences. They don't describe the awareness that is experiencing them. So, what is that? Well, that's what you are. You're pure awareness. That's what all of us are. We are pure awareness, which some people might call God, universe. It doesn't matter what you call it. We're all talking about the same thing. We're talking about creation. And that's really what you are. You are a piece of creation experiencing itself through your uniqueness, which is so beautiful. That's how amazing you are. There's no one that is like you. Not anyone on this earth is exactly like you, or anywhere in the entire universe is just exactly like you. And we can prove that through fingerprints. We can prove that we're all different through DNA, through fingerprints. We are not exactly the same, and we're not here for exactly the same purpose. Conditioning is simply the process of learning how to operate in the world. I want to make something very clear. Your conditioning is not the enemy. It really is helping you to have the experience that your soul came here to create. It's not the enemy. I repeat that because I need you to know that it's learning how to flow with the conditioning. It's learning how to rise above it in a way that you're observing it. And because you're observing it, there's awareness. And that awareness is creating a different reality for you because you're choosing different. You're not in a constant loop of creating the same reality. Everything is up to us and awareness, which happens through observation, being the observer, not judging yourself, but just observing what is going on. And that builds the awareness to choose something different. It's a deeply natural process that helps us survive, to belong and communicate and function within the society and on this earth. You know, the human experience is one of the most richest, sought after experiences that you can choose because there's so much growth here and it's so incredible. It's such an opportunity to be here, especially right now as we are becoming so much more in aligned with higher frequencies as a human race and understanding so much more that some of the other civilizations, like some of the extraterrestrials, I prefer not to call them aliens. I prefer extraterrestrial, that in consciousness, they understand so much more than humans have, but it doesn't make them any better. It just makes them that they understand more because of consciousness. When we talk about things like dimensions, well, we'll just talk about dimensions. These are not actual places that you're going. These are mindsets. These are levels of awareness. That's all it is. There's many dimensions happening, timelines all over on this earth that you're not even a part of because you've evolved past that level of awareness. And that's really interesting when we get into that because you think, well, how can that be? Well, if we think for a moment, I like to use the analogy. I use a lot of analogies because I think it really helps people to understand because we are visual creatures. And when we can connect with something, this is actually proven through neuroscience that when you can connect with something that you have some sort of experience with, it's going to stick more because there's some sort of experience there. So I want you to visualize when you think of a hotel and how there's many different levels, like if you're in a multi-level hotel in Chicago or something like that, some big hotel, and everyone's been, probably most people listening to this have been in some sort of larger city. And there is many floors. And someone that's on the second level of the hotel could be experiencing a very different experience than someone's on the 17th floor. Why is that? Because they're on different floors, but they're in the same building. And that's how you can really think of dimensions. Like if you're just thinking on the earth, for example, it's not that you're in a different building. You're not on a different earth. You're just on a different floor. You're on a different frequency. So you're experiencing something totally different. So you could, for example, be living next to your neighbor that could be living on a totally different dimension. And I have to clarify, dimension and frequencies are two different things. But you get to a different level of awareness dimension based on frequency. And so your neighbor, for example, could be living on the third dimension. Well, you could actually be living on the 12th dimension. I mean, that's probably pretty excessive. 12th dimension is pretty high up there. I don't know of any humans, not even myself, that's been able to reach that level. The highest I've ever went is the 7th dimension, but that's been through hypnosis. But it's not that you're not living in the same, you could totally be seeing people and are in totally different dimensions, but you might not interact with them because there isn't a frequency match. Everything is a mirror in this universe. And we'll talk so much more about this in further episodes because this is really interesting. And this is all stuff that you can apply to your human experience to live the most aligned version of yourself and understanding more of this. And do I have answers or proof of this? Absolutely not. Is there really proof of anything? I mean, maybe science, but I often say science started as an idea, an intuitive idea that someone was able to prove, I guess you could say. But what is proof? I don't know. Again, this is a place of asking questions and getting curious and knowing that we can't say that anyone has the answers. You're going to hear me say that so much because we just don't. Everything is about perception and really what you're giving meaning to and how you perceive that meaning. And that could be totally different between two different people or 1,000 people compared to another 1,000 people. It just all depends on perception and belief. It's very interesting. So we don't actually experience reality directly. We experience the interpretation of reality. Like I just said, every single thing that happens to you passes through massive filtration system before it becomes your conscious experience. And it passes through your beliefs, your memories, your emotions, your expectations, your nervous system, and your subconscious patterns. And from a neuroscience perspective, the brain is essentially a prediction machine. Well, what does that really mean? It means that it thinks it knows based on that patterning and experience that you have had. It always thinks it knows. It continuously predicts what's likely to happen based on what's happened in the past. This is highly efficient for survival. That fight or flight, that reptilian brain. Of course, these are important. They wouldn't be here if they weren't. Anyone that's trying to say you need to escape your ego, you're escaping the matrix. Bullshit. No, you're learning how to flow with both. You're learning how to thrive within it. Thrive. Okay? Learning how to understand those parts of the experience. If you touched a hot stove once, your brain predicts that touching it again will hurt. So you don't do it. And that's conditioning. And hey, that's a good thing. Don't touch the stove when it's hot. That is where instincts are so important and the ego is important. Or if you're being chased by a bear, of course, you're not going to tap into your intuition and be like, okay, I mean, you might, but you're probably going to run. You're going to use your fight or flight to be able to get the heck out of there. So this is very important. We're not trying to say that it's not, that the ego, the reptilian brain, the instincts are not an important part of this experience, because they are. They absolutely are. But what happens when the brain is predicting emotional danger based on past experiences that are no longer happening? What happens when you're unaware of those predictions and they are quietly shaping how you perceive your current reality, your relationships, and your potential? Well, familiar doesn't always mean true. And this is really about the invisible operating systems. And let me say again, because it's so important, familiar does not always mean true. Remembering that your ego is always trying to keep you safe, and that doesn't always mean that it's the best for you. You have to remember that many of the beliefs you hold right now can feel so true simply because they've been repeated in your mind for years, not because you ever consciously examined them. It might actually just be that you inherited them. Never really have asked yourself the question why you have those beliefs. And family systems become invisible operating systems. Many of your deepest assumptions about love, money, conflict, achievement, spirituality, and I'm also going to add an imposter syndrome, which is really believing, what do I have to offer? Why would anyone really want to listen to me? How many people have that? Probably a lot. Most of the population has imposter syndrome. And really about thinking that what's been handed to you is what's real. And you didn't choose them, you absorbed them. Now, I have to state, I believe my perspective is that we do choose our families. And that helps us with growth. That helps us to break generational patterns, which is a lot of work I do, and helping people that are aligned with me and the mission that I'm on to help you to understand why this has actually happened and to transcend above it, not that you're trying to act like it didn't happen or that you're ignoring it. That's a totally different thing. You're learning how to alchemize it and understand that it needed to happen so that maybe future generations like your children, or I don't have kids, but I help people like you to be able to understand, and that might help you to break a generational pattern. So you don't necessarily have to have kids, but just think of future generations and that whatever you're doing to change, because we're all connected, nothing is separate, that's having an effect on future generations. And so it's not just about your family. It's about conditions that could be related to culture, society quietly teaching us that success, what it should look like, what beauty is. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. What beauty is. Like, that's such a crazy thing to think about. And especially with social media now, how it's just so, everything is so fake. I guess I can't say everything because you're not fake, but how much of this world is so fake? People can hide behind screens and portray these lives that aren't even real. And then people start to feel that they have to compete with that. And it's just not true. So being careful with social media and really what you're consuming is so important. You'll hear me talk a lot about that too, because I'm such a big believer that, I mean, I can see through things. That does not come from a place of judgment. That comes from a place of awareness and being able to educate others on that to be in the best, absolute, most aligned version of yourself so that you can not pay attention to that, because everything is what we pay attention to. So, as the saying goes, where attention is focused, energy flows. So, if you're not paying attention to certain things because it doesn't align with you, because you understand it from a different perspective, other than feeling like you're in it, you're observing the outside of it and not feeling as though you have to be like that or that you have to compare yourself to other people. When you start to get past that fake sort of energy, you're not judging anymore. You're just observing really what's going on. And that's really what I mean by this is not a place of judgment. This is a place of awareness, observation. And that's where things get really powerful, when we can live our lives that way. It's a very advanced level of consciousness to be able to see life from that perspective. So remembering that conditioning isn't only psychological, it can absolutely be physiological. The nervous system is really learning patterns just as the mind does, and our bodies learn patterns of safety, danger, connection, and protection. And if you grew up in an environment where conflict was dangerous, your nervous system learned to associate disagreement with a threat to survival. And now as an adult, you simply disagree with your partner might trigger a massive fight or flight response, for example, or it could be someone else, just based on some sort of trauma response. So when we start to become aware of really our triggers and patterns, that's when we can really start to change things, which is so powerful and so enlightening, actually, to be able to be in that much control of ourselves. It's so great. So when that happens, you might ask yourself, when you're triggered, why am I like this? Why am I reacting in this way? And it's not judgment. Remember to not judge yourself as you're learning more about these triggers and patterns, because it's okay. That's the first step, is realizing that I don't need to judge myself. I'm observing what's going on. I'm digging deeper to be able to understand through awareness. But the first step is just observing, then having that awareness to understand deeper and continuing to evolve and grow. But in the high frequency mind, we can change this entire question. Instead of asking, why am I like this? So I just asked you to ask yourself that. We can ask, what might this reaction be revealing about my conditioning? That's a pretty good question to ask yourself. That's very curious. And every emotional reaction contains information. It is showing you the lens. And now we talk about the awareness and the observer. We've talked a lot about it, but we're going to talk a little more. So if we are walking around experiencing reality through the thick lens of conditioning, what do we do about it? Most self-help or personal development paradigms will tell you to fight it. They'll tell you to force yourself to think differently. Oh my gosh, toxic positivity, fake positivity. Oh man, that is just not cool. That is not the way to do this. You can't walk around and act like you're not experiencing things. And, oh, I just got to be positive. I got to do my affirmations. I got to journal. No, you have to live in polarity. Remember, this whole entire universe is based off of polarity. You have to let yourself feel what you're feeling. You have to let yourself process, or it just gets pushed down and it doesn't ever get addressed. So this goes back into this fake energy that can happen, where people can become very good characters. We're all characters, actually, in this reality. We're having a human experience, which is a character, or human avatar, I call it. But you might see people that they're really good at marketing. They're really good at presenting themselves. But underneath, once you understand more, you've done the work, you've actually done the work. You're going to be able to see when someone has not done the work, no matter how good they are at trying to hide it, Okay, you have to do the work. And toxic positivity is part of not doing the work. It just is not real. We're supposed to have polarity. We're supposed to be experiencing this experience through depth, through understanding the experience and learning from those experiences. The experiences are the whole point. Whether they're good experiences in our eyes or bad experiences in our eyes. Remember, everything is about what you give meaning to and the perception. But we don't do toxic positivity here at High Frequency Mind. It isn't about bypassing pain or pretending difficult emotions don't exist. Again, polarity. We are in a universe. Everything is polarity. There's always light and dark. You're never going to have joy without grief. You're never going to have ease without struggle. You're never going to have happiness without sadness. It's just the way that it works. It is polarity. It's learning how to flow in this experience with the polarity. And even when you transcend into a different experience at some point, when you're done with the human experience and you go somewhere else, you want to be an Arcturian or a Palladian. And for example, you're still going to live in polarity. It's just the human experience probably has some of the most polarity that you could experience in a physical reality, which is so exciting to the soul. That's so exciting to your soul to enjoy the polarity. It's just learning how to respond to life differently. This is the whole key to this. And the human experience is, like I said, a profound journey, and the goal is not to escape or to rise above it. I say rise above it. I've said that a lot, but I don't mean rise above it as is that you're somehow superior above the human experience. Never. No, your soul doesn't want that. You just want to respond to it differently. That's what I mean rising above it. The goal is to be fully consciously present within it. This is the key. So you don't fight the conditioning, you observe it. It's part of the experience. It's part of the experience. The awareness is what changes the conditioning that the conditioning cannot. You cannot force lasting change by just trying harder. Don't try harder. Just enjoy the experience. Enjoy the experience. Observe. Have the awareness. Lasting change begins by becoming aware of your thoughts and patterns that are already shaping your experience. This brings us to the concept we're exploring deeper this season, and that's the observer. Thoughts are not the same as awareness. And I gotta tell you, some of these thoughts are not even yours. Okay? We'll get more into that as well. They are the output of conditioning and your brain's prediction machine. Remember, your human body, your brain, it's a machine. It's an avatar. Who's speaking right now? Who's Lindsay? Lindsay's a character. So who's speaking? The I am. The pure awareness is speaking. And that's who you are. The intuition, the higher self. The higher self is a piece of the pure awareness. I should say that. The soul could be another word for it. But who is speaking? I'm not really Lindsay. I am a higher self. I'm a soul. I'm a unique piece of the pure awareness or God or universe that is experiencing through a human experience. So that's really interesting to think about too, because that goes beyond identity. I guess there's some identity there when we talk about having a unique purpose or mission or unique soul DNA blueprint. But you really are at the root. Awareness is really what you are. You're not the human character. It's a temporary experience that you're having. And the observer begins where automatic identification ends. When you are in the seat of the observer, you aren't trying to stop your thoughts or suppress your emotions. You are noticing them with curiosity rather than becoming consumed by them. Judgment reinforces conditioning, And if you judge yourself for having an anxious thought, for example, you are just layering more conditioning on top of seeing it differently. Awareness doesn't erase conditioning, it creates space around it. Remember what I said, that it's about responding to life differently, and responding to the human experience differently, allowing you to observe in it rather than automatically living from it. So, if we think about conscious participation, this is where the magic really is happening. And this is where we begin to awaken the infinite creator within. And when you can observe your conditioning without judgment, when you can remain open without abandoning your discernment, you step into a new relationship with consciousness. And the high frequency mind is not a destination you arrive at where you suddenly have no problems and perfect thoughts. It is an evolving relationship with consciousness that continues to deepen through observation, integration, inquiry, curiosity, remembrance, and lived experience. It is an invitation to conscious participation. Conscious participation begins with noticing. Again, that's that awareness. Before changing anything, pause, observe, become curious about what is happening within you. We don't control every experience that we have. Life is going to happen. The mystery of the universe will continue to unfold. Remember, you're in a masterpiece, which is the universe. You are the universe, and it will bring things to your door that you did not ask for. Well, I actually have to say, probably most things we do ask for, whether it's consciously or unconscious, and that is not anything to blame. Remembering that you are always exactly where you need to be. And if something is there, it's supposed to be there for your evolving. But awareness invites you into responsibility without blame. I don't want you to blame yourself if something happens that you're like, what the heck? How did I manifest this? We always have the opportunity to become more conscious within our experience. And instead of asking, how do I fix myself? Because remember, you're not broken. You never have been. I want you to begin asking, what becomes possible as my awareness expands? What becomes possible when you realize that your conditioning isn't the whole story of who you are, but simply a lens you can take off and examine? Growth doesn't always require becoming someone new. You don't need to become anybody new. You're perfect just the way you are. In fact, the true growth is often in the process of unbecoming what you thought you were. It's shedding the layers of who you were told to be so you can remember who you have been all along. Remember, this is about remembrance. This is not about becoming someone else. This is about who you've always been. It's just you forgot. That's it. You just forgot. Well, guess what? You remember. You're starting to remember, and that's why you're here. And as we're closing today's episode, I want you to leave with a few reflective questions. I like to do this at the end because I want to leave you with something. I want you to be curious. That's my whole thing. Curiosity. That's how we grow, is being curious and being open. Because here's the thing. There is absolutely nothing in this universe that's exactly the same. Nothing is linear. We do not have to be linear. We do not have to think the same or be the same as anyone else. That's why I like curiosity, because it gives you the opportunity to dive in deeper. Whatever you feel aligned with, just dive in deeper, ask questions, get curious, have fun with the experience, just like a little kid has fun and has no cares in the world and can create anything, be anything, is super excited about life. Why? Because they've never lost that curiosity. They don't lose that until they're about 7 years old. Every one of us was conditioned, and that's when the subconscious mind really starts to take over, is about 7 years old. And that's when you become less curious and you start living through the conditioning. Well, not anymore. You're curious, and we're going to have fun with these questions. And so I want you to think about this over the next few days. Send me your responses. I love hearing from listeners. I'm here to support you. It's the whole reason why I'm here. So reach out to me. Let me know. Leave a comment. Leave an emoji. Let me know how this goes. And so the first question would be, what beliefs about yourself have you never questioned? That's a good one. Which emotional reactions in your life feel automatic? And what did your family or culture teach you about love, success, money, or belonging that you are still operating under today? And the fourth question, can you begin to notice the difference between your thoughts and the awareness that's noticing your thoughts? I want you to get really curious about these questions, and I will include them in the show notes so that you can have them written down as well. So don't worry if you didn't get them, they're going to be in the show notes. But get curious. Life is so fun when we're curious. You don't need to change anything right now. I just want you to observe. I want you to let the mystery itself be your teacher. Let yourself be your teacher. Listen to your intuition. And again, it's so much fun. This season is going to dive so deep into all this stuff. You're going to absolutely love it. So make sure to stay tuned. And we're going to explore so much on intuition, consciousness, the subconscious mind, relationships, and the extraordinary nature of the human experience. But it all starts here. It all starts seeing through this lens that we've talked about today, starting here with the observer and the awareness. Just getting curious. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today on this episode here at High Frequency Mind Radio. I want you to remember that your journey is not about escaping this life. Don't believe that garbage. It's not. It is about fully living within it. And I want you to tune out that noise and always go within and trust yourself, because no one knows better than you. I promise you, there is no one that knows better than you. And until next time, I will see you on the next episode here at High Frequency Mind Radio. If something in this episode landed for you, that flicker of recognition, stay with it. This is awareness beginning to do its work. Share this episode with one person you think is ready to ask bigger questions. It might be the most important thing you do for them today. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow the show and leave a review. It genuinely helps more people find this work. And one more thing, The High Frequency Mind, the book, is coming August 2026. If you want to go deeper into consciousness, the human experience, and what it means to be fully awake inside the adventure of this physical reality, this is for you. Head over to garnetmoonlove.com to be the first to know and also download your free chapter. And until next time, tune out the noise and go within.